Avoidants are often in pursuit of the perfect relationship, especially dismissive avoidance and fearful avoidance that lean dismissive. The problem with the perfect relationship is that it doesn't actually exist, at least not the relationship that the avoidant is looking for. The relationship that they are looking for is one that does not trigger any of their wounds, where there's no threat of emotional intimacy, where there's no disagreements, no conflict of any kind, and there's no expectations put on the avoidant. This relationship doesn't exist, but this is the fantasy that they are always chasing. And it goes back to this person's childhood. This is a person that received consistent childhood emotional neglect. Growing up in households where you don't talk about feelings, they weren't given that unconditional love and nurturing, at least not in the way that they needed. Their feelings were routinely dismissed and rejected outright. If they had any kind of negative emotions, it was shot down. The message was sent loud and clear: your emotions are not welcome here. So they personalized this lack of love. They personalized this emotional neglect, growing up to feel unlovable, broken, and defective. And they also learned that if you rely on anybody for your emotional needs, such as your parents or caretakers, you're going to get disappointed. You're going to get rejected, perhaps even outright abandoned. They create these walls around their heart because of that low self-esteem, that lack of self-worth, the wound of shame, of defectiveness. And their fear is, and it largely lies in the subconscious, but many are consciously aware of it: if I lower my walls, my partner's going to figure me out and I will be exposed as defective, and they'll reject me and I'll get abandoned and heartbroken. So emotional closeness becomes a trigger. Deep emotional conversations becomes a trigger. And this perfect relationship is always light, easy, and surface level, without them ever really having to take their walls down. Now, because they had their feelings routinely rejected, they feared disagreements because they'd learned to associate any kind of disagreement with rejection and abandonment. If they had feelings about something and they expressed it as a child, it was met with fierce resistance. So even the smallest disagreement feels insurmountable to them because their subconscious mind associates it with rejection, abandonment. Now, expectations, that's one of the biggest triggers for them. Now, in addition to that emotional neglect, they often grew up in households where there were high expectations put on them, pressure to succeed, and when they were given love and affection, it was based on accomplishment. You get good grades, here's a little bit of love and attention. You hit the winning home run, here's a little bit of love and affection. You win some competition, here's a little bit of love and affection. And the pressure is often on them to be successful in their careers. So they learn to associate their self-worth with meeting expectations, but they struggled to meet the expectations of their parents or caretakers because those expectations were so demanding on them, and they tie in their self-worth to that. So even the bare minimum of expectations in the relationship feels insurmountable to them, that they cannot meet your needs, that they will inevitably disappoint you, even if it's just expectation that they're going to communicate, spend quality time together, things like that. When you start to hold those expectations, the thought that goes through the avoidance mind is, I'm going to disappoint you and I can't give you what you need because you're going to figure out I just can't live up to your expectations. And that is a deep wound from childhood. So this light, easy, perfect relationship with the perfect partner that they're looking for, it doesn't actually exist. And when they are in a relationship, especially with a partner that is emotionally available, consistent, and loving, they will fault find because their fears are getting triggered. Closeness is building. There might be some disagreements. So then they start fantasizing about this ideal relationship. Oh, maybe there's somebody more perfect out there for me. Maybe there's someone more attractive, someone smarter, someone this, someone that. Because they are pursuing this fantasy relationship and fantasizing about this fantasy relationship, and often a phantom ex that they had the perfect relationship with, that they really look at with rose-tinted glasses, again, after the relationship failed, and use this to create emotional distance with their current partner. They fantasize about these relationships as a way to create emotional distance between them and their current partner and inevitably justify the ending of the relationship, justify their urges to run away. Because when they do this and they convince themselves that there's someone more perfect out there for them, that they just haven't met the one yet, well, now they don't need to self-reflect. They don't need to look within. They can continue to avoid because that's what they've learned to do and continue their pursuit of the relationship that is so perfect, it doesn't actually exist.